All right, exactly what are we looking at over here? Well, this is a makeshift stand just to hold up this 3-axis gimbal here. Now, this one comes from Came TV, and I tried my best to balance a GH3 camera here. Now, these things will come pre-balanced, and what they mean by that is they've adjusted the stage here in 3 different ways for you to get a 5D Mark II or Mark III on here. But you know, that really depends on the type of lens that you're going to use. So what I did though was I changed the settings here to balance this GH3 camera. Now, I probably don't have it perfect. In fact, I'm very sure I don't have it perfect, but it is close enough. As you can see, if I just kind of wobble this here, it may not be exactly perfect. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that your camera is aligned properly on this stage, and that means that this tilt here and this roll has to be in perfect sync. So I'll show you a close-up of how to get that balance in a second, but basically when you get this unit here from Came, they will send it to you pre-balanced, and as far as software goes, there is no way to connect to this and alter the software. It's basically designed to stabilize this platform level to the horizon. So you'll see there's a little level over here, a little bubble level, and underneath there, I believe this is the sensor over here that will try to keep this camera stage level with the horizon at all times once you turn it on. So anyways, I'll push in a little bit and we could see how you go about balancing this. But the reason why I have 2 cameras mounted here is this is the stabilized platform down here, which is controlled by these brushless motors on the side, one back here and then one up here. So that's your 3 axes. And then on top here, I just mounted this GH3, which is the exact same camera, same lens, basically the same setup. But above here is non-stabilized. So what I'm hoping to do is kind of run around with both cameras rolling at the same time, so you can see, you know, how shaky this footage might be compared to this one, which is supposedly stabilized on this platform here. So as this top portion is kind of pitching and rolling and twisting, this one hopefully should stay very steady. And again, I have not perfectly balanced this, but I'll show you what it looks like so you kind of get an idea of what you need to do. So before we get into that as well, the battery just mounts to the back here. There's a bit of Velcro and then a strap that keeps it in place. One plug here. Then there's a rocker switch back here for the on and off, and that's pretty much it. So it's actually very easy to go through the process of turning it on. The hard part is just going through the steps of balancing whatever camera accessories you're going to have on here. So we'll look at that right now. All right, so here's a closer look at the stage area here. Now you have an adjustment here for forward and back on your camera. So basically, if your camera is falling forward, you're going to want to sit it back a little bit so that it kind of stays level. Also on the sides here, this side as well as this side, you'll have 3 screws, and it actually makes it fairly difficult. I wish they didn't have so many screws, but you have to loosen 3 screws on this side, 3 screws on this side, and basically what you want to do is raise or lower the camera to balance it to this motor on this side here. So it's not trying to swing the weight up or down. So what you want to do is try and get that balance as much as possible, so that ideally if you tilt your camera this way, it should stay this way. You can see mine is still fairly bottom heavy, so I'm not going to get too much into that. Then over here on the back side with this motor is where you could slide this stage left and right. That's basically if your camera's tilting this way, you would adjust these screws back here so that you can level this out. Now you want to do all this while it's not on. So you can see here there's a little bubble level, and Let me try to push in on that so you guys could kind of see what's going on here. Okay, so right now the platform is just, you can see how the platform is just kind of not really doing anything. It's not actively stabilizing itself. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the switch on, which will probably read this sensor down here and try to calibrate itself so that the horizon is level. Again, my camera is not perfectly balanced, but let's go through that process here. So I'm going to hit the switch on. It takes about 30 seconds for it to go through its little setup. So you'll see it in a second. There you go. And you notice how it just kind of tried to level out that horizon. And if you could see it up here, this bubble level is actually, the bubble is in the center, so it is level right now. And it's actively stabilizing. So as you're creating erratical movements, it's going to try to stabilize itself. So I'm going to knock this, and you'll see how it tries to bring itself back up. And it'll gradually move in slowly to level out that horizon. Same with the roll. It'll come back to its original position. So it responds a little bit differently when you're trying to pan left and right. It kind of has this little follow mode. But if you jerk it very quickly, it doesn't follow. So it's attempting to stabilize. So in any case, let me show you the setup that I have again and what my plans are. Okay, so once again, I have a hard-mounted GH3 here. That's mounted to the handle. So this whole platform up above here is not stabilized. So as I'm walking and my hands are shaky, that's going to translate into the video of this camera here. And hopefully this one can maintain a level horizon as I kind of walk, and as this one kind of rolls and tilts. Hopefully this one will maintain a level horizon. So that's kind of the setup that I have right now. And I wanted to do it this way because I wanted to have the exact same cameras, same lenses, so the field of view is not too different. I know a lot of guys do this with like a little GoPro, but that wide angle could be a little bit deceiving to how stable it is. But anyways, we'll see what this setup looks like. I'm going to take it out right now. All right, it's a little dark out here, but hopefully you guys can make out what's going on. I just turned on the stabilizer, so give it a second and it should level out the horizon. All right, so it should be leveled out right now. So I'm just gonna follow Jake around, and you'll notice the top camera is not stabilized, the bottom one is. And I'll purposely roll the camera, and we'll see how well it could keep the horizon stable. Now as I pan, the bottom one will follow. So it's not going to pan as quickly as the top one. Then you'll notice as I roll the camera on the top, the bottom one will try to keep the horizon level. And I'll roll it the other way. And we'll try to keep going and turn this corner. So you'll notice the pan again does a follow, so it's a gradual pan. And again, if I roll the camera, the bottom one will stay horizontal. All right, let's turn around. Let's go back. So here's that gradual pan. Pan left. And that's it. That's a quick test. If I roll this camera on top, you'll notice the bottom one will still stay horizontal. Tries to. So that is my first impression on the Came 6000 3-axis gimbal. Now, I'm not an experienced 3-axis gimbal operator, so with any tool, it's going to take practice. And it also, on this particular model, it's a little bit tricky to get your camera perfectly balanced, but I do notice that it will perform better if you can get your camera balanced very well on this system, so that it's not fighting the weight so much, and your camera, it just has a natural balance to it. It's not going to get rid of running or jumping like a Steadicam would. This tilt should try to take care of some of that, but you know, again, it really comes down to how well you balance it and how much you practice on a system like this. And you know, I don't have another gimbal to compare it to, so obviously the feedback that the processor gets and how quickly it can compensate for, you know, your movements is all dependent on the hardware. I think for the most part, with my lack of experience, it did a fairly good job keeping the camera level, even though I didn't have it perfectly balanced, and this is my first time operating it. Now, again, this one, you cannot go in and adjust any of the parameters for. There's nothing you can compensate for this system like the other gimbals out there. They've pre-configured it, and you know, I believe it's the sensor down here which they're using to just say, hey, whatever camera you have on here, I'm just going to try to keep it level, and it's really up to the operator to balance the camera as best as possible. And you know, not exceed the weight limit. Here I have the GH3 with the 1235. I did turn the power OIS off, so there was no image stabilization happening there. I did review the footage. It was a little twitchy going back and forth, but you know, again, that could come down to a lot of different things. I'm not sure exactly what, but you know, I had 2 cameras mounted on here. It was very heavy for me. My system wasn't properly balanced, but it still did a fairly decent job. Whether or not this is the best on the market, I can't really say. I haven't compared it to anything else. But you know, rolling the camera around, it did a fairly good job keeping the camera horizon fairly level. That's as much as I could say. It does come with a remote here. I can't say it's the best remote. It's you know, all plastic, so it doesn't look like it's high quality. If you power this on, another operator can pan and tilt for you. There are some trim adjustments here, so if your camera's not sitting perfect, you could trim it on these dials here. I'm not going to get too in-depth in there because I don't know, you know, who's going to use something like this. It does take a lot of getting used to. Don't think that you're going to buy one of these and just go out and shoot amazing footage. In fact, even the very, very high-end systems out there, the guys who have them are still trying to practice to get good results. So as much as these work well, no matter what, you're going to have to take some practice, and it takes a lot of time to balance your camera. It's not just throw it on and I'm ready to go. You really should dial in your camera as best as possible. And you know, the design of this one is not very easy. You've got 3 little bolts here and 3 little bolts here, so you're trying to adjust the stage up and down and keeping things locked in or loose, and it's a little bit tricky. And then you have the adjustments back here on this motor, which you have to slide side to side with your camera on there, and that's a little bit tricky as well. And then, you know, just bring your camera forward and back. That's not too bad. And then, you know, the real trick is how you're going to mount this, you know, how you're going to keep this up in the air while you're doing all this at the same time. I had to just create a rig out of 15mm rails, but you know, you're going to have to come up with something because this kit doesn't come with some sort of stand for you to balance, you know, your camera on. So anyways, that's my first impression of the Came 6000 3-axis gimbal system here. You know, it's again, I think it did pretty well keeping the camera's horizon level, even though I was trying to throw it to the extreme. But I can't say that, you know, it is the best out there on the market, but it does work if you take the time to just go through the steps of balancing the camera and practice on a system like this. So any questions, hit me up on the blog, cheesycam.com.